Hi folks, Smudge here and welcome to Progressive Sound Audio. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at an extract from a recent Coffee Beans and Music Scenes video where myself and Tony discussed the topic, what is the best DAW? It was so funny putting this video together, I hope you enjoy it and I'll see you on the other side. On that note, right, let's get into the spotlight topic. I've been looking forward to this one. So, I want to see your reactions to this one. So the spotlight topic for this episode is, what is the best DAW? No, I think it was your reaction that broke your internet. I think that's what it was. I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna stop this right here because I think me and Tony can both say with 100% wholeheartedness, the best DAW does not exist. So there is no such thing as a best DAW, but we're going to rephrase the spotlight question too. Is there a best DAW for everyone? And the honest answer is no. There is no best DAW for everyone because it's one of those things that's always based on what you're going to need a DAW for. So, for example, are you a songwriter? Are you a producer? Are you mixing? Are you mastering? Are you editing? Are you doing to restoration? Are you mastering, composing? You name it. The list goes on and on and on. So it's a very short spotlight topic, and the answer is no, there is no best DAW for everyone. What's your kind of thoughts on this? When you hear that question, what's the best DAW? We've seen your reaction. It's the same reaction I get every time I see a social media post when someone asks, what's the best DAW? What's your thoughts, Tony?
Well, where do you basically start? I mean, this is like Pandora's box, isn't it? I mean, you open up the lid and God knows what's going to come out. I've only ever used two DAWs, which is Logic Pro X and Studio One Professional. So I don't have a wide range of experience. They all do similar things, but some of them do things slightly differently.
Yep.
And I think that's it's a bit like a bowl of fruit. I mean, you fancy fruit, but you don't know which kind of fruit you want. So you pick out a banana and you think, oh, I like that banana. That tastes really good. And then you pick up the kiwi fruit, which is a fruit, right? And then you hate it. It's just the taste is terrible. And I think DAWs are a bit like that, you know? I mean, you kind of, you try out a DAW, and everything just flows intuitively, you know. It does depend how you're coming at it. I mean, if you're a seasoned, if you're somebody who grew up on analog consoles, and you went to audio school and you're completely familiar with all these techniques like compression and EQ and sidechain compression, you know what a leveling amplifier really is. It's a compressor, but you know, you're familiar. Then obviously you're looking maybe for a little bit more. So if you're actually firing up GarageBand and you look at it, you're probably not too impressed. But for somebody who's a musician and just wants to record their music, GarageBand is a great starting point. You know, you can record your music, you can actually be creative, and you can record a song, and you can even obviously export it and upload it to Spotify. So I think it does depend how you're approaching the question. Yeah, it's a bit like learning to walk. I mean, how far can you go? I mean, if you just stumble and you can go a couple of 100 yards, that's your world. It's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, you know, you can, great, look, I can walk from one end of the kitchen to the other. But then if you want to obviously conquer the great outdoors, you need to walk a little bit further than your kitchen. So you need to grow. Yeah. And obviously your legs get stronger and you can walk to mountains and this kind of thing. So that's the analogy that I would use. My experience is that they do similar things, and it really depends what you want to do. And I'm sure no matter anyone watching this, all 26 of you, anyone using a DAW would probably say they only use a fraction of what the DAW is basically capable of. So you get comfortable, you know, you find out how to record audio, you know how to do comp editing. And then once you've learned how to do that, that's how you do it. There might be 1,000 other ways to do it more effectively within the DAW. That's exaggerating, but you stick with what you know. So I think when people say, oh, this DAW is the best DAW, what they really mean is, actually, I'm really comfortable with this DAW and I can achieve what I want to do with this DAW and it works for me.
Yeah.
And that's my take on it.
I would absolutely 100% agree. And I think it's one of these things where you know, every DAW is capable of doing something. The majority of things, every DAW will be able to do. But it's then when you start getting into the specialisms of what you want to do, is then you have to make a decision of, does this DAW have the right feature set for me? And I think people are looking for a DAW that has every single feature under the sun. I can tell you now, it doesn't exist. And this is a thing, and this is why people will specialize. If you look at something like a composer, it's no secret that probably the two most used DAWs for composing are Logic and Cubase, because they offer a more a feature set that is more in line with those disciplines. But let's go to the other end of the spectrum, mastering. You're looking at the most common used DAWs for mastering are Wavelab. You're probably looking at something like Sequoia, maybe even something like Pyramix. These are DAWs that are specialist mastering DAWs. But there's so many. There's so many variables. You've got to define what works for you and what feature set you want to determine what DAW is best for you. If you're looking for one and done, it doesn't exist. It really doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
And I think this stems from the notion of this thing called industry standard. And I think this is the thing that I'd like people to take on board is, when people say, let's say, use example, Pro Tools is often deemed as the industry standard. I will dispel that myth and say there's no such thing as an industry standard, because what is the industry? That's the first question you got to ask. The industry is so wide that you cannot say a DAW is an industry standard, because it has to be a standard amongst all disciplines. And it's not. So I would say that Pro Tools is a studio standard, maybe. Maybe that's the best way to determine it, because it's most likely to be the most used DAW in a studio environment. Doesn't make that an industry standard, because how many songwriters will use a different DAW to create the demo of a song? How many mastering engineers will use a different DAW to master the project in? And it goes so on and so on. A composer, it's unlikely, or it's very rare you find a composer who will be fully in Pro Tools. They may do aspects of it in Pro Tools, but the majority of the work will be done in something like Logic Pro or Cubase. So I don't think there is something that can be deemed an industry standard outside of what the marketing departments of a DAW may want you to believe. I think it's probably fair to say that Pro Tools may be the studio standard. But it's kind of, if you're on this chase for the best DAW, it's not going to exist. It may be a best DAW for you, but there isn't a best DAW for everyone. And I think this is the key takeaway for me. It's like Tony's mentioned here that he's tried Logic Pro and he's tried Studio One. Me and Tony are very well known for using Studio One, and we're well versed in Studio One because that's what's been best for us up to our current point in time. But it doesn't mean it's the best for everyone. And I've pretty much, I'm not going to say I've tried them all, because I haven't tried them all. It's impossible. But I started off on Ableton Live Lite because that was free with my very first interface. I'm relatively well versed in Reaper, Studio One. I've got Cubase Pro 12. I've tried Harrison Mixbus. I've tried, God blimey, what else I've tried? I've tried Logic Pro when I had a Mac. I've tried Pro Tools. I've gone through so many of them, and it's kind of like, it's trying to pinpoint what is the best for you for your current needs in time. And I think this is the challenge that a lot of people will face, is they're looking for the best DAW based on everyone else's experience. And Conan Manchester, a good friend of mine, he likened this when choosing the headphones. Right? He come up with this phrase saying, it's a bit like going out and looking for a pair of shoes without trying them on.
Yeah. And
it just sums it up. That statement is just, it can fit to so many different things. And it's the DAW scenario, it fits it so well, because you've got to determine what's best for you, not what's best for everyone else. What's going to fit your needs and your workflow, what's going to have the main feature set and what's going to be a design that is going to inspire you to create music. And
Exactly.
it's the best way I can explain it. Is it's kind of like there's no point going out and looking for a pair of shoes without trying them on first. You have to try these DAWs to see what works for you and not what works for everyone
Exactly.
else. So
Yeah, I think creativity is the key thing for me. It's just a tool to get the job done. I've said this before on previous episodes of Coffee Beans and Music Scenes. That it really is. It's a tool just to get the job done. You just want to be creative and create music, and whatever helps you to get to that point in the most efficient way and most creative way is probably the answer to the question. That is the right door. That is the best door, but it means it's the best door for you, and therefore you can categorize it as the best door. Because the other thing, of course, is loyalty. I'd like to see a statistic about brand loyalty, but I often hear people talking on the internet when they are hosting these YouTube channels, and they say, "Well, I use this door because it's the only door I've ever used, and I know how it works." You
yeah,
know, and I'm happy with it. It might be, for example, workflow might be slightly convoluted, but if you're used to that workflow, and again, back to my theme here, is it enables you to get to the end point of what you want to achieve creativity, or whether you're doing it on a professional basis, it helps you get there quicker. And at the end of the day, time is money if you're working in professional. But of course, other people, if time isn't and money isn't your thing, we all want to obviously be productive and get to an endpoint as quick as we possibly can and achieve good results. So the answer is the best door is the one you're probably using, but you don't even know it.
yeah. I mean, I would take a slightly different tact, and I would just recommend and urge everyone to at least try some different DAWs, because it's kind of for me, the way I explain it is you can't really make a judgment on something unless you've tried it firsthand. And there's something around there's a psychological aspect here that no one ever talks about, and everyone talks about feature set, or they talk about the technical capabilities of a DAW. But
Yeah.
going back to your point here, it's about something that allows you to focus on the music. And it's almost an unwritten thing where people don't focus so much on is the inspirational aspect of a DAW. What is going to inspire you to create music? Because this is the end goal. What's going to inspire you to get from A to B the quickest? Now, it could be the feature set, but don't discount the fact whether a DAW inspires you visually to want to use it. Because I can tell you now, there's nothing worse than getting a DAW that may have the best feature set for your needs, but if that DAW doesn't inspire you to want to create music, you're not going to create music. And this
No.
is another thing, it's almost an unwritten thing that people don't want to talk about, is the ability to have a DAW inspire you. Because there are many out there that may not have the best feature set, but if they inspire you in some way, shape, or form, it could be the layout, it could be the general GUI, the colours, for example. The amount of people who are visually inspired by a certain colour set, it's amazing. So I know I agree with what Tony says. Don't necessarily change doors for the sake of doing it. Sometimes the best DAW is the one you've got. But also don't be afraid to dip your toe in and try it. Try as many as you can. Once you've found one that you think is ticking so many of the boxes, then stick with that one for a while. Don't get so drawn on the technical aspects of a DAW. Don't forget there is an inspirational point. Find a DAW that inspires you. Try them all. And once you think, you've got one there that's got a good feature set that fits most of your needs, and it's going to inspire you to create music to get from A to B quicker, go for it. Don't feel you've got to use a particular DAW because it's the vogue DAW or it's one that everyone else uses. You've got to have one that inspires you to create music.
No,
Would you?
I 100%. I 100% agree with that. I mean, basically, I would, and of course, most of these doors, Smudge, come with a trial period, either 30-day trial period or
Yeah.
14-day trial period. So that's long enough maybe to try out a couple of projects or at least find your way around the door. The other thing that I would advise is that personally, we all subscribe, but I do. I subscribe to other educators online. In fact, that's how I subscribe to your channel, Mastering in the Box, and that's how obviously we started a relationship together. is that when you subscribe and follow people, don't necessarily stick to those who basically are working in the same door that you're working in. Subscribe to people who are working in Ableton Live. Subscribe to people who are working in Logic Pro X or Pro Tools or whatever, because the workflows and the concepts are practically the same. And I've learned certain things by watching somebody actually carry out a production technique in Cubase, and I've applied that to the DAW that I'm using. So
Yeah,
that's something that's very, very useful. So one shouldn't really just be stuck on my DAW is the best DAW and everything else is just complete rubbish, which is absolutely not true.
yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I cannot stress this enough, because it's not so much about. I mean, we're going to go slightly off the topic here, but there's so much to learn from other people. It kind of goes back to that whole notion that, once getting inspiration, if you find someone who inspires you to create music, just, it doesn't matter what DAW they use. You don't have to follow their DAW. Their DAW choices. If they give you something that's going to inspire you and a certain technique or whatever, it's irrelevant what DAW they use, because there will be ways
Agree.
for you to to do that in the DAW that suits you. So yeah, I think that's a great point you've mentioned there. But it's just this, you know, I I can't stress this enough. There is no such thing as the best DAW, and I think it really is down to personal
No.
taste. And you've got to keep going back to this whole notion of what's going to allow you to create the best music that you can with the skills that you
Yeah.
have, and with the ability that you have. That's what it's about: creating great music, not what the best DAW is. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'm currently working on a Studio One 6.5 update video, because there were some great updates to the project page, and that will be coming really, really soon. In the meantime, if you liked the video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and if you really liked it, please give it a thumbs up, because that really helped go towards the algorithm sharing these videos to even more people. All that's left for me to say is I hope you all keep safe and well, and I'll see you in the next video coming real soon.